Hello there, and welcome back to episode 31 of the Fandom podcast. Today we have,
Hello.
today we have no guests again. Struggling a bit for guests, a few weeks, but yeah, we still got me and Josh, so that's all right.
Yeah.
Um,
Back to the original kind of thing.
yeah, I'm gonna quickly close up my window actually. There we go. I know it seems ridiculous today because of how hot it's actually been.
Yeah, we've had ridiculous temperatures.
Yeah, 30 degree weather. It's been alright though. It's been alright.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, nice enough.
yeah. There hasn't been a whole lot this week, other than
No.
Thor and Miss Marvel, really. Although we both don't like Miss Marvel, and we both thought Thor was good. So, actually, I don't really know about your thoughts on
Yeah.
Thor. Um, but yeah, you'll hear him today. So, let's get started with Thor: Love and Thunder. Do you want to start off then?
Yeah, sure. I mean, overall, this film, it was a good film. I enjoyed it. I thought it was definitely the funniest Marvel film I've seen so far. It was just a very entertaining film overall, really. Uh, the storyline was interesting. Gore was a very cool villain.
Christian Bale. Christian Bale did a great job there.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, just the whole route they went with it. I've seen a lot of complaints about the amount of comedy in it, but I quite liked that. I thought it made it quite good.
Oh, it's like
Uh,
normally in other films you expect like when Lady Sif was dying, it was it was
yeah,
meant to be a massive like sad moment, but they did try to actually make it. Yeah, they made it into a comedic moment, which is what I think is great about Taika Waititi. Like, I think he doesn't
yeah.
create these fake. Uh, he doesn't create these like massive fake situations where there's a massive battle and everything's got to be sad. He sees the funny side and everything. So I like him for that. And
Yeah.
I think that this film he had the comedy there. Had the comedy there.
Comic.
The action was there. Um, yeah, just it. I think it ticks a lot of boxes, which is something you don't really get from much Marvel projects lately.
Yeah. Um, I mean, yeah, like you said, overall, it was just very entertaining, really, and it's nice to have a more comedic film.
Yeah,
One thing I would say is I thought it was a little bit short. It could have maybe done with another little bit to flesh out
that's
both.
that was one of my main points. I
Both.
think
Yeah.
what let the film down slightly was uh, was it the very short run? It wasn't very short, but 2 hours. Um, it felt it felt very quick. Like it
Yeah.
felt it literally just gone. So maybe like another 20 minutes would have been all right or something like that.
Yeah. Just a bit longer to flesh out both Jane's storyline and Gore's storyline, I think,
Yeah.
and it just made the film a bit better, a bit more impactful.
Um, I think if we're talking comedy as well, I love the goats. Yeah, the screaming goats in the film.
Yeah.
At the start of the film with
Yeah.
the Guardians of the Galaxy as well, and then the goats come in. Uh, yeah, it's just pretty funny to be honest. You don't see that in any other Marvel film.
Yeah. And I'd say Korg as well. Korg's probably stolen the show in this film because
Oh,
some of his comedy is some of the best.
like I said, Taika Waititi again. He's just Korg, just literally like the most casual person there. Um,
Yeah.
Around everyone, just a very funny character, and then him and Dwayne at the end of the film as well.
Yeah, Dwayne the Rock.
Yeah, see that reference?
One of the most clever references I think Marvel's ever done there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest.
But yeah, it looks that was a great part of the film. We got to see Eternity, which is always good to see. Like the universe being expanded. Like we get to see more of these characters that we haven't seen before. But
Yeah,
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 that we could have, like, if we were talking, the film was a little bit too short, then we could have seen a little bit more of that. Like I think Eternity would have been such
yeah,
a cool character to see a bit more of.
yeah. And I'd say with expanding and learning more about the universe, I'd say maybe the gods bit as well. It was like the massive council of the gods. It was cool to see. And it probably would have been a bit better to see a bit more of that, if I'm honest.
Oh, if they explored it a bit more, I think it would have been cool. But I put down here, it's like it was a great scene with Zeus and stuff, like that fight scene.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, it was great, and we'll get into, yeah, we've got a few spoilers coming up, so if you want to just skip ahead to Miss Marvel, you won't be watching that anyway. So um, yeah, the post credit scenes, uh, thoughts on them?
So the first one, the mid-credit scene, we got to see obviously Zeus coming back. He's still alive, and we see him like talking to Hercules, which I thought was quite interesting. It's kind of setting up Zeus as like a future villain almost, and he's sending Hercules after Thor. Um, so it's lots of setting up. It will be interesting to see what actually comes of that. Um, Obviously, we saw the big Thor will return at the end. But yeah, I thought that whole bit with Hercules was interesting and Zeus. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the future. And then post credit scene, it was alright. We saw obviously Heimdall come back. We saw Jane talking to him in Valhalla. And it's all interesting to see. I just wish it could have kind of fit onto the end of the film instead, maybe, rather than just in the post credit scene because it just
I'll give you that there. I think it's a
it
decent point. It would have been better if we got that right at the end of the film, and then we would have got some kind of more important post credit scene.
yeah, it was alright to see, but it neither set up the future or was a funny moment like we see with other post credit scenes. So it's kind of just there. It was alright to see. It's just it wasn't really worth sitting through all the credits or
Yeah, yeah. It was like I was expecting something big there. It was like, oh, okay, this could be big, and then it's just like it just could have been another part of the film. To be honest, we could have had something a
yeah.
bit more important here. Um, but yeah, and my thoughts on the post credit scenes was obviously we saw Hercules in the first one, but I was thinking almost for a second, which I know it was a long shot, but I was starting to think, hang on a minute, is he talking to like a celestial here, or is he talking to Galactus? Because I saw he was looking up and um yeah, looking up at it and describing it as like a almost greater being. And then we got Hercules, and I just thought it's a bit of a letdown, isn't it? Um,
Yeah,
it's
I
still
guess.
good. Obviously, I'm looking forward to seeing Hercules in the future, but it could have been something a lot bigger. But I guess it makes sense. So
Yeah. It
hopefully,
depends how it fits into the future of Marvel as well. Like they
yeah,
can't always be having massive character reveals because
yeah.
all these characters aren't going to fit into their universe and
I have
into
seen
the story they're trying to tell.
I've seen Galactus. Like I was thinking Galactus at first, but I was thinking, it can't really be possible just because of the fact that I think they'll use Galactus at some point with the incursion.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
might explain that theory later on, um, if we've still got time. Um, one thing I was expecting from the post credit scenes was something to do with the symbiotes, because I reckon the next big Avengers film is going to have something to do with the uh, symbiote king. And the reason I say this is the sword we saw Dane Whiteman pick up in Eternals. I feel like that's got something to do with um the symbiotes. and the sword that we saw in this film that Gore uses, that's got something to do with symbiotes, I reckon. Because if you saw them shadow monsters, they look a little bit like Venom, maybe. It's probably a long shot,
Yeah,
but
kind of.
I reckon I, I reckon they could have fitted it into this film somewhere, like maybe a small mention eventually. Um, eventually they do reveal it, but yeah, I feel like that's where they Marvel are going with this film. Well, that's where I think
Yeah,
Marvel are going, and I think this was just a small start to it.
yeah, they were kind of symbiotic. I was going to point that out as well. The necro sword that Gore uses. I don't know much about it, but I didn't know whether it maybe has some sort of connection to the sword that we see Dane Whiteman use,
Yeah,
or not use, but like
uh,
almost pick up.
yeah, I know it's something to do with symbiotes, but that's all I know so far.
Yeah. Um.
Um,
But yeah, I mean, it was a very entertaining film overall and very interesting setup for the future.
yeah, like on Friday, I was thinking when we went to go see it, it was like, oh, Marvel are kind of letting me down here at the moment. This Miss Marvel show is bad. Um, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness was a bit of a letdown. Moon Knight was, um, in my opinion, after looking back on it, above average. Um, yeah, it just, and then this film came along, and I thought, okay, this is what I like to see in Marvel, just a fun adventure with all sorts of different characters. That's what I like to see.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I'd say I was still enjoying Marvel overall. I'd say this is just another like addition to the universe, I guess.
yeah.
Um, I'd say it probably wasn't as good as Ragnarok,
Oh no,
but it was still
it did. Ragnarok is one of the
quite
best
good.
Marvel
I'd
films.
say.
Yeah,
Yeah, Ragnarok was always going to be like difficult to live up to. So
yeah.
to be fair, I don't really mind that. But it's still up there.
Um,
With obviously top half of the Marvel films, like
yeah.
one of the best Thor films we've had.
So, without further ado, what is your film rating?
Oh, that's an 8.5 out of 10.
Surprisingly enough, I've gone for the same thing actually, an 8.5 out of 10.
Okay, okay.
Um, all right. Next up, we have Miss Marvel episode 5. Do you want me to start off with this one?
Yeah, sure.
All right then. Worst episode by far. I think we can both agree on that. Um,
Yeah, I'd say so.
yeah, ruined. I, I think that throughout the storyline, the show, no, yeah, the storyline of this episode ruined a perfectly good finale. What we're gonna get in the finale now is just Kamala making a boring speech at the end of it, while while at the beginning she runs away for 20 minutes or something like that. And there's gonna be absolutely no action at all. That's not a finale show. It's supposed to be. Marvel's supposed to be action, not someone running away and then making a peace speech or something like that.
Yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from with that.
Just I don't know why people aren't. Um, Marvel is an action franchise, so why aren't we getting it? Today,
Yeah,
um, in the end, even the CGI in this, which we both pointed this out. I mean, it was some of the most. I could compare this to, like, something from 1970s. That was probably better than this. The
yeah,
CGI,
yeah.
that portal, the Null portal, it just I don't even know how to explain that. It was terrible. Um, and then I think it was not. I can't even remember their names. Najma, I think, is her name. I may have got that very wrong.
I think you're about right there, yeah.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, just turning into skeletons. I mean, when that
Yeah,
was a stupid
that
scene.
CGI wasn't good
Yeah,
at
just like
all.
crumbled and then turn into a charred skeleton. like a skull on the floor. I mean, that's how lazy
It's just
how lazy have people got?
yeah, like I can see it being a bit more of like a child, like aimed at a younger audience show, and I can see it being more of like coming of age fun show. But we could at least have like Marvel level like
Marvel level
almost
deaths.
explanations and CGI and stuff.
Yeah, as I said earlier as well, no, as I said last week on the podcast, I didn't really care for the death of the um, I think it's a Red Dagger, yeah, the Red Dagger person.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't really care for his death, but it goes for these two as well. I didn't really care if they died or not. There's nothing interesting about them. They're just it just moving on. So yeah,
yeah. I can kind of see that again.
yeah,
Um,
it's a bit of a flaw. It just died, and we won't really won't see any mention of them in the future. It doesn't really matter.
yeah, yeah. I'd say my main problem with this episode was the fact that they dragged out the story of like her ancestors at the start. It took like 20 minutes for them to explain that story with her ancestors at the start. That I mean didn't fully make sense to be fair, but yeah, like if we've already seen Marvel's time travel and it being that they go to an alternate timeline when they time travel and stuff, and that not affecting their actual timeline, then how's she affecting her own past? If that makes sense.
Yeah,
I, I just didn't fully understand how that was meant to be working.
I don't even know if it was.
Um,
I don't even know if it was time travel or not. It just didn't really explain it that well for me.
yeah,
Yeah,
it just didn't explain anything
yeah,
really.
it was almost a bit like somehow Palpatine returns kind of moment. It was just okay. Have we got anything towards that? Nothing. All right, moving on.
Yeah, kind of.
Um,
Um,
yeah, have you got?
I'd also say so. They spent like 20 minutes dragging that out at the start of the episode, and then they rushed the actual interesting bit of the episode, the action and with the bit with the clandestine, which probably one of the most interesting aspects of the show,
Yeah,
and yet they kind of rushed that ending and brought that to a close like very quickly, which was a bit of a letdown. And then the Red Daggers, who were also like an interesting part of the show, they've gone now. I don't think we'll be seeing them again.
oh no, we'll never see them again.
Um, they've they've given that other guy, I can't remember his name, but the clandestine kid, they've given him powers, and so
I can't remember his name.
we're kind of going into a finale here where just her and this other guy are on the run from the Department of Damage Control, and that's kind of it. Um, so yeah, it it's rushed stuff, and now it's left stuff in a place where it doesn't seem as interesting anymore.
Hmm. I mean,
And also,
I think a good way to
they've used
yeah.
you go.
I think one thing you're trying to get there is they stretched out the boring part of the episode and rushed the interesting part, which is like they
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, you can't spend 20 minutes on like a flashback. That doesn't really amount to anything.
Yeah, no, it doesn't really mean much. It just explains a tiny detail from earlier on in the show,
Yeah.
and yet it took them like 20 minutes to explain all of that stuff.
Um.
Um,
Yeah. Have you got
I
what
don't know
you
as
got to
well.
say?
Like they've used her suit and everything in all of the advertisements and all of the marketing, and yet we've not even seen it yet.
We'll
We need
we'll
going
probably
into
see
the
in
final episode. We need an explanation for how she's going to get back to her country, an explanation for how she's going to get a suit. We need to be on the run from the Department of Damage Control. So there's just it's almost as if they're leaving themselves in a place where they need to explain a lot and don't need to give much for a final battle.
You know that as well they'll cram that into 40 minutes, and
Exactly.
that'll be their finale.
Yeah, they're not set themselves up very well for the finale at this point.
Yeah. Have you got anything else to say on this episode?
Not really. I think you've pretty much covered it all.
Yeah, I think we covered everything. So, what do you rate this episode out of 10?
I've given it a 4 out of 10.
Oh, I've gone lower. I've gone for a 3 out of 10. Yeah, truly,
okay.
yeah, truly shocking Marvel right there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the show overall. I've been optimistic about it until now, but this episode just kind of got rid of everything that was interesting about it almost.
Yeah, I think from what I can see, you've been trying to defend it quite a lot, and now, now this just it's gone to shambles. The show.
Yeah, because to be fair, I didn't think it was that bad before, and then this episode's kind of got rid of everything interesting. So if the finale comes out well, then I'll be surprised.
Yeah. All right then. Moving on. Josh, I'll leave this one to you. You're talking about the Umbrella Academy season 3.
Yeah, so I know this has been out for a few weeks, but I've only just got around to watching it all, so I've never seen the first 2 seasons before. And to be fair, overall, the Umbrella Academy is a good show overall. I would probably recommend it. It's nothing amazing. It's not like exactly Stranger Things level, but then that's kind of difficult to pull off. But it's still very entertaining, very interesting. I mean, overall, yeah, the show's good. It's about like a group of kids who were all born mysteriously on the same day, and they all have like kind of superpowers, and they're adopted by this guy, Reginald Hargreaves, and he kind of trains them to be a superhero team. But then when they get older, they kind of split up and go apart until his death, which kind of brings them all back together, and then their brother who went missing comes back and unravels this massive mystery about like an apocalypse, basically. They have to try and stop the apocalypse. And yeah, I think overall it's very interesting. It's a good show to watch if you've not really got anything else to watch. So going into season 3, they set it up with an interesting cliffhanger on season 2 finale. You've got them travelling back to an alternate timeline, where they've like evaded the apocalypse finally, but because of the stuff they'd have done in the past, they're in this alternate timeline where they weren't adopted. It was some other kids that were adopted. So they've got not the Umbrella Academy anymore, but the Sparrow Academy. I'd say going into season 3, some negatives about it. I'd say, like I mentioned, the Sparrow Academy, they were all right. They were kind of interesting, but they weren't overly interesting or engaging as characters. Mainly because it's kind of, they're not really villains and they're not really heroes either. They're kind of in the middle, kind of secondary antagonists that turn good toward the end when there's literally like 2 of them left alive. So overall, I didn't really find them interesting. I think they've done every season. It's about stopping an apocalypse. I think they're kind of ready for a bit of a change now. If they go into a 4th season, they're ready for like a more human, personal villain, like an actual physical villain for them to take down rather than an apocalypse to stop or something. I know they've kind of had human villains all along, or like personal villains with personalities, but they've never been the main, almost threat they have to stop. It's more there's an apocalypse coming. We have to stop that somehow. Also, they make a very weird decision, like one of the weirdest decisions. But the character Alison, she's always been this kind of caring character. And we even see like going into the start of this season, we get like because her other sibling Victor comes out as transgender. So we see her being this kind, caring character, and yet somehow she then goes in the space of like 2 episodes to this character that doesn't really care about anyone else. And they do give reasoning behind it, and you can kind of understand their reasoning, but it didn't really fit the character, and it's a bit too fast for you to fully understand their motives as a character. Like why they're so annoying, almost, because she kind of became an annoying character, whereas before she was quite a nice character that I actually quite liked. So there are a few negatives to this season, but there's also a few positives, obviously, and probably more positives than negatives, really. You've got this whole, again, the apocalypse, or as they call it, the Kugel Blitz in this season. The whole storyline with that, as the threat was interesting, quite like that, as well as the Hotel Oblivion. It's kind of like the setting and how they almost saved the universe in the end. I thought that was quite an interesting storyline, quite like that. I also thought what makes this show is the character relationships, really. You get these characters, these siblings that are kind of dysfunctional, like a normal family. But they're also, you get these really nice moments, and probably some of the best moments in the show when you get almost their character relationships and moments together, and see how they work almost as a team or as a duo or whatever they're in at the time. Also, the show as a whole, it's got lots of likeable characters. I'd say you've got number 5, you've got Klaus, Diego, Lila. Lots of characters where they're funny, but they're also serious at times. They can have lots of emotional moments. Characters that really work, and they really utilise those characters really well in the show. I'd say also, this season it was nice to see more of Reginald Hargreaves. I'd say he's kind of been this important character in the background this whole time, and yet we've not really seen much of him. He's always been like dead, or kind of like this character that, I don't know, he's a bit elusive almost, I guess. He's kind of, you don't see much of him basically. It's kind of mysterious almost. So it's nice to see more of him in this season. Nice to see more of how he works as a character and what makes the siblings dislike him so much. And dig into like why they hate him because of the trauma he's put them through as children. So yeah, it's cool to see more of him. Going into a potential season 4, I'd say it'll be interesting to see where they go, because going in at the end of the season, we see they've all lost their powers. They're in a universe now that seems controlled by Reginald. Seems to have control over literally everything. So it will be interesting to see where they go in the potential season 4. If that happens, or whether they leave it like this, which would be even more interesting, a kind of cliffhanger ending. So yeah, I mean, it's another good season for the show. The show overall, I like, found it interesting, and yeah, it's an entertaining show to watch, and it keeps you interested. So overall, I'd say I'd give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, not too bad. I've never watched Umbrella Academy before, and I have it on my have it on like something I may watch at one point, but
Yeah.
I'll wait and see because um, I know there's mixed reviews about the show.
Yeah. I'd say it's good. I'd say it's not anything amazing or spectacular, but it's an enjoyable show to watch.
All right then. Um, have we got anything to talk about lit wise?
I don't think I've got anything. I
Um,
don't know whether you want to talk about anything.
I said earlier on I'll explain the theory about what I had with Galactus coming into the MCU. Um, so as we see at the ending of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, um, the woman comes in. I can't remember her name, but she said
Cleo.
that yeah, that Doctor Strange whether he caused an incursion, which is when you spend too much time in another universe, and that means like two universes can collide together. I think it's some
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so what will probably end up happening is another Earth will enter our universe. Yeah, will enter the MCU universe. Because of the incursion. Galactus will come along then as not he won't be a villain in this, but it'd be more like a protector, just because only one gets to survive, and I think that would be that would be his reasoning. So um yeah, the heroes on in our universe would have to end up getting into either not eat either planet or eat the other Earth. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
Another yeah, that's my theory. So what will probably happen at one point with the incursion is another Earth will end up turning up in one film, like Thanos and Ragnarok. It will just turn up in a post credit scene randomly. Maybe after Doctor Strange 3, but it could be literally in any film. Probably around 2026, 2027 kind of era.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's about it really. I haven't really got much else to talk about. It's been a bit of a dry week.
Yeah.
Um, all right then. So, thank you very much for watching. Oh wait, no. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. What we got to talk about next week then?
I'm not sure.
I know I literally just missed Marvel finale. That's all I've got. But other than that, we're a bit dry. Uh, yeah, expect a few top threes next week or something like that. Um, yeah. So, thanks for watching, and yeah, goodbye.